The next one is pitfall to avoid as a parent with an alienated child. Don't turn every situation into a conflict.
Yeah, I think this ties in a lot with the previous point, considering that it's like you were saying, it's a very emotionally charged moment, especially when you see all these stories, these horror stories, on the internet or just in your own research, where there are people who have not seen their kids, had any contact for years. In my case, I was estranged from my mother for about 13 years. There were in about 6.5 year periods, I didn't see or talk to her at all. And so, I mean, there was only one instance where she drove up across the entire country just to come see me for a weekend. And so when things are so high stakes and you feel like, this may be the last time I see my kid, this may be, I mean, for all I know, they could, go somewhere else. They could move to another state or another country. It's a very scary feeling. And with those scary feelings comes these overreactions and the because the child's going to be defiant, they're going to be rude, they're going to be obnoxious. It's part of that is them acting out the trauma that's unresolved within them. And when we react to that reaction, to their reaction, when we are reacting to their behavior, instead of recognizing that their behavior is a cry for help, we are amplifying that anguish and that pain that's in them, because we're not focusing on the pain, we're focusing on their ability to be an obedient child. And so instead of focusing on how do you put your child in a two-dimensional box so that way life is happy and cheery and rosy, because truth is it's never going to be like that now. What you want to do is start looking at how do you reach deep within that child and find the sources of conflict within them and give them the stability that they need in order to feel better about themselves and about their relationship with you. And to put that into perspective, you want to avoid things where, like, you're losing your temper, for example. You don't want to be in a position where they can goad you into a fight, because they're going to be engaging in behaviors often similar to the alienating parent, which unfortunately brings in a whole nother slew of emotions. They're going to make demands that are unreasonable, that a child would never make. You wouldn't have a child rationally make a demand for child support or a demand for alimony or anything along those lines. But they're going to be echoing these sentiments. And what you want to avoid is putting yourself in a position where you're goaded into a fight. You might hear this in martial arts a lot, where they say, whenever you enter a fight, you want to be in a calm, still kind of mind, because if your opponent goads you into anger, you forsake all technique, you forsake all sense of thought, and you start attacking aimlessly, allowing yourself to be easily overpowered by your opponent. And that's exactly what's happening here.
So Andrew, you worked in you had experiences rather in parental alienation as an ambassador. So did you run into that where children were speaking or talking or asking about child support or alimony? Did you see that happen with other people, for example?
I've seen some of it, when maybe not in person, but I've seen it in some of the people I've counseled. I've seen it where, unfortunately, parents were so distraught by their child's behavior that it steamrolled into a violent conflict. And so not only is the parent traumatized and worried that their child is turning into a violent person, they're also afraid of taking that step again, at trying to be in a parent-child relationship. In my own experience, I remember being a child filled with vitriol and venom, just wanting to just lash out anytime that my mother was trying to build a relationship with me. And the impact from that was it just became second nature. I stopped thinking about why I was doing it. And it was just, this is what I do whenever she gets around me. And in many situations, like my mother always maintained her calm, but she would always try and make these affirmations, I'm always going to be your mother. And, and I don't think that you should treat your mother that way. But in comparison to a lot of parents who start making demands and start saying, I'm your dad, I'm your mom, you don't treat me this way. And they're beating their fists on the table saying, or metaphorically beating their fists on the table saying, this is not how you should be acting. They're allowing themselves to be caught into this conflict, which in many ways is the whole purpose. In our first episode, we talked about how the child is going to associate the alienated parent or the estranged parent as a source of drama. And the irony is that they're going to come in, they're going to instigate this drama and then blame it on you. And you don't want to get caught in that trap.
Let's go back to your mom.
Okay.
Now, you said she was making some, when she was trying to reunite with you or reconnect or establish a love bond with you, at first you resisted, correct? I heard you say, at first you were like, but then when she said to you, and like, I'm your mom and I'll always be your mom, did that land better for you, that statement?
At that time, what ends up happening is, because that was her default affirmations, I could be as poisonous and hurtful as I could try to be, and she would make those affirmations. I'm always going to be your mom, I'm always going to love you, and I understand that you're upset. And what would end up happening is some days I would turn it up and be even more spiteful. Other days I would have been calm and just let her talk so I could wait for the conversation to end. Some days it just ended up with a hang up. I just hang up the phone. The point was that she didn't escalate it. She didn't turn it into a fight. And because she didn't turn it into a fight, I lived my life knowing that I wasn't fighting with her, if that makes sense. Because let's have this little hypothetical real quick. If she did escalate it into a fight, then I would have spent the rest of that time, the rest of the day, the rest of the week, or what have you, thinking about, I got in a fight with my mother again. And it's going to be, I got in a fight with my mother again. Because if it's one fight, chances are there's going to be more of them. And it would be this consistent pattern of fight, 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 fight. And when you get into these fights, and you create this pattern of conflict, then when it comes down to the actual point of reconnection, I'm going to look at that track history and say, well, I don't know if this is a good idea. Every time we talk, we have a fight.
I love what you're saying, because it's just like hitting me right here and right here, because that I think that is how a young person might think about their parents. And so I really admire when your mother had the wisdom to say, I'm your mother. And so that's kind of more neutral, timeless language, right? So how about this one? Let me know what you think. I'm your mom. Like, not to you, I'll speak maybe to someone else, and just a general statement. I'm your mother and I'm waiting for you. I'm here when you're ready.